So Jen is the chairperson of our governing board, and Zach has just also joined the governing board, as Fidelity joined. So we're also going to welcome back out with them a few other folks to do a panel on FinOps in the financial services industry. So please also welcome Andrew Feig from JP Chase and Bruno Schaefer from Nubank.
Welcome. This is great to be back after 3 years away. I've got to say we were at the CloudyCon 3 years ago, and so it's wonderful to see you all again. You know, we heard from the state of FinOps that financial services is actually the largest adopter of FinOps. And so this is a great opportunity for us to learn from some of the financial services. Financial services has some unique challenges in their environment when they're adopting cloud. First of all, they tend to be highly regulated industry, and also some very well-established companies. We're going to talk about that in a little bit, along with some FinTech, some very new modern companies. So let's talk a little bit about our panelists here. We're going to start with Zach Stitham. So Zach is from Fidelity Investments, which I know fairly well. Fidelity is a company, a privately held company that's 76 years old. It has $11.8 trillion under administration. And it's, I think I mentioned it is a privately held company. He is the head of the cloud program, the Cloud Business Management Office, and really his goal for FinOps is to have it be at the forefront of thought as we adopt cloud. Next, we have Andrew Feig. He is with JP Chase. So JP Chase is an interesting company. It actually has a history back to 1799. Which makes it probably the oldest bank in the United States currently active. It is a multinational bank. It is also the largest US bank and the 5th largest bank in the world. And it has 250,000 employees. Andrew is the director of cloud engineering and in charge of their Cloud Center of Excellence. He has been with the company for 10 years, and what he really likes to do is drive economy of scale in FinOps. Finally, we have Bruno Schaefer from Nubank. And Nubank is our FinTech representative here. It's 9 years old, has a whole different set of ways that it pursues it versus these legacy companies. It is also the largest FinTech in Latin America. It went public about a year ago, and Bruno has been with the company for 3 years. He is their engineering manager, and when he talks about FinOps, he talks about efficiency and scale. So first of all, thank you guys all for joining me. So Bruno, we're going to start with you. Where are each of your organizations on your cloud adoption journey and your FinOps journey?
Yeah, so at Nubank, one thing that was different is that we were born on the cloud, so we didn't have to go through the challenge of migrating from on-premise to the cloud. But in terms of our FinOps adoption, I would say we are walking on most areas with more mature tooling and automation for the visibility part and a lot of optimization and major opportunities on unit economics and the governance part of our FinOps.
Thank you. So Andrew, unlike Nubank, yes, you weren't born on the cloud. Clouds were just things in the sky in 1799. So, so tell us about your cloud journey.
Sure. So probably about 10 years ago, the private cloud really took off, and we moved, to that platform, continued to evolve, innovate there. And probably about 6 or 7 years ago, we decided to make the decision to move to public cloud. So that's still going on. Every line of business, at JP Morgan is heavily regulated. So, it could take 6-12 months to get approval to move your data to the cloud. And believe it or not, some countries around the world are not allowed to put anything in the cloud, right? So we still have to run traditional hardware in those places. So it's still, there's still a lot more to do, but, we're on our way. And it's really exciting because, the time we can save by going to public cloud or cloud in general, 6 months to 6 days, 6 hours, right, is really where everybody gets really excited about it.
All right, Zach.
Yeah, so ours is a Very similar to Andrew's. We're making a big push now. So in 2016, we put our first app in the cloud. 2019, we came out with our hybrid strategy, and right now we're 54% of our applications have a cloud presence, and 45% of those are cloud only at this point. So trying to push towards 70% by 2024. So we're on our way.
And Zach does push, I will say, as the head of the cloud office, he pushes those migrations very hard. So we saw in the state of FinOps that the FinOps usually reports to the CTO, the CIO. So what I'd like each of you to do is tell the audience a little bit about your role itself and where are you reporting into the organization, and what are your purviews? What do you consider your scope? Andrew, we're going to start with you.
Sure. So interesting at JP Morgan, for a long time, cloud engineering was part of engineering architecture. In the last few years, we've broken that out, right? So now there's a dedicated cloud engineering function that does all things cloud, right? Not only enablement of cloud, private and public, but also training, FinOps, SRE, and all that. So I now report to the head. I'm in an employee experience corporate technology division, where we focus on the 250,000 people, making sure they have great experience, developers have great experience, and as well as supporting lots of functions in finance, HR, audit, legal. And I report to the CIO of that group, and he reports into the CIO of the firm. So the whole cloud function's been elevated way up in the food chain.
Great. Zach?
Yeah, very similar. I report to the CIO for enterprise cloud computing, one of the, we call it central IT organizations. So we've got sponsorship from the center, but again, we talk about our model where, hub and spoke, we've got representation from each of the business units. And they also have, I would say, agreement or sponsorship up to their CIO. So, we've got buy-in across the board, which I think is super helpful for our organization in pushing to go in that direction. And then from just a position standpoint, we're responsible for, I would say, our cloud P&L and just making sure we do it in the most effective and efficient manner.
Great, thank you. Bruno?
So I report to the CTP business unit, which is the Common Technology Platform. And we focus on building the foundation really related to infrastructure that abstract a lot of the complexity and enable the rest of the business to move fast. And CTP reports to our CTO. And me personally, I'm really focused on scalability and efficiency for the teams that I support. And top of mind efficiency for me right now is really cost efficiency on the cloud. So that is what gets most of my effort these days.
So I don't know if you guys heard my walk-up music of Zombie, which by the Cranberries. But one of the things and why I always choose it from a FinOps perspective is we think of zombie assets all the time, and that's really important for us to get rid of zombie assets. So that's the walk-up music. All right, so next time, Andrew, financial institutions tend to be highly regulated. Did that help or hinder getting executive support to adopt a practice?
I think it didn't hinder it. I think it became apparent very quickly, right, that moving to the cloud was going to be difficult in certain countries, right? So knowing that you have to take 6 months, 12 months to get a regulator approved the data to move to the cloud, you have to start that early, right? Get those approvals early. Don't wait until you're ready to go prod and say, oh, I need to get approvals. So it definitely is a friction point, but I think a lot of regulators around the world are also coming up to speed on cloud. I think originally it was like, no way. But that's changing, right? A lot of the cloud providers are building clouds in those countries where you have to run in those countries, right? A few years ago, it wasn't even an option. So I think it will accelerate over time. The friction will be there, but I think also it's just more of the whole community evolving, everybody having that learning and aha moment so that, I think it does become part of the normal course of business. Like anything new takes some time to get going.
So Zach, I'm going to actually ask you the same question. How has being a highly regulated industry impacted our cloud adoption?
Yeah, it's very similar to Andrew. It's not hindering us at all. It's just we've got to be thoughtful about some of the things that we do based on the contracts for companies that we service. So utilizing one cloud service provider versus another, making sure that who has access to our data or who doesn't have access to our data, and just making sure that those things are top of mind as we move to the cloud.
Great. So this is a question that wasn't in the cards, but yesterday you and I were talking about what is the difference that you have felt being a private company and then going public?
Oh, the biggest difference was that a lot of things that we did before we turned public, when we went public, actually turn it into problems, right? So forecasting of cloud expense, analysts, they don't like when you say, we cannot really forecast that well with a high level of confidence. So
I don't know why.
yeah. So that changed the game, and that is one of the main reasons why we are really focusing right now on the governance part of FinOps and make sure we have a structured approach way to tackle those challenges.
Great, thank you. And thank you for doing that impromptu question. Zach, during the adoption, Fidelity started in a hub and spoke model. I know you briefly talked on that a little bit, but talk about why we adopted it and what your experience has been.
Yeah, it's been great. It's been probably an absolute highlight for us. So the centralized practice, as far as where I sit from the hub, we're focused on those things from a purchasing strategy perspective, tool selection, making sure that we have approval forecasts and things like that. And all those requirements, when I talk about tool selection, they come from the spokes. And I think about the spokes as probably the most important part since, they're at the forefront of pushing or working towards cloud for their business units. And they're all at a different point in their journey. They're consuming cloud at different time, consuming cloud at different services, but they're all bringing it back to the center. So it ends up, enhancing both the depth and the breadth of our FinOps knowledge on our way, and just trying to share those best practices and make sure we get the most value out of every dollar we spend in the cloud. So it's truly been a blessing to be, in that model and just gain, I would say, approval, or, from across the set of CIOs that service Fidelity.
Great. Thank you. And I appreciate it. Let me just say that. Bruno, what have been some of the biggest financial challenges and success? And I love the story that you told last night at Black Friday.
Yeah, so I guess internally one of the biggest challenges that we always face, and I think everyone goes through it, it's the accountability part, right? And the showback versus chargeback model. That's one of the things that challenged us. And in terms of Black Friday, at Nubank, we really tackled FinOps, and we focused initially on the technical aspects of FinOps. So we did a lot of work, for example, in optimizing how much spot instances we can use, right? And last Black Friday, last year was a time when we really sit down to build a plan, a capacity plan. So what is it that we actually need to go through Black Friday? And after we wrote the plan, we realized we can actually don't reserve any capacity and go full spots, right? And initially, everyone told us, you guys are crazy. That's probably not gonna work. So I'm really proud that we were able to bring all the stakeholders and have a conversation, show the plan, right? And actually show that we actually had a plan B, C, D, right? To make sure nothing goes wrong. And we got buy-in to actually go with the initial plan. Let's go full spots. And we went Black Friday running 80% spots in production. And it was actually a record year for Nubank in terms of sellings and requests and all of that. So it was really good for the company, and we saved a lot of money, so really proud about that.
That's fantastic. I don't know if you saw Andrew's face when you said 80% in spot in production. He went like this, right? It's remarkable, and I think one of the really great things about that story is how thoughtful you guys were about knowing that you had this upcoming event, and by launching spots, not only were you able to save the discount of it, but you were only paying that for a very short period of time, right? Really using the elasticity and scale of the cloud to your company's benefit. It's a fantastic story. All right, so the state of the FinOps data shows that only 49% of companies are doing chargeback, but neither showback or chargeback represent maturity. Which way did your organization decide to go and why? Andrew, we're gonna start with you, and then Zach, we're gonna go to you.
Sure, so we do both, right? So the chargeback takes about a month to hit, and that's too late to do any optimization. So we try to let everybody use the native tools in the console to see what they're actually spending, and make it easy for them, right? We actually initially blocked all those tools, don't know why. We worked hard to get them all enabled, because otherwise it was a month waiting period. And once we started doing that, we started seeing those optimizations happening a lot quicker. You can't expect somebody to do something quickly if you don't give them access to the data near real time.
Zach?
Yeah, so we do both as well. And I'll say when we started down that path to try to get more to, I'll call it direct allocation, anybody that came from central IT that I just said does charge back out to the business units, you used to hear well, you guys are really expensive. And every time it'd be like, can you guys cut your costs? And you want to be like, you're the consuming business unit. You're the ones that are driving our costs. It's not me coming up with this. So we made that conscious choice to go, we're actually going to put those dollars into the business unit's budget, and then we'll direct allocation back. And I think it's worked to create more of I would say, ownership from the business units where they're controlling their costs as opposed to just receiving a bill. And then on the flip side, when we talk about the show back, I think we're just not there yet. We do show back from I would say, down to the application or granularity perspective to see really where the costs are coming, but the direct allocation ends up being on an account perspective, cost center by account back to the business units.
Great. Bruno?
Yeah, at Nubank, we did mostly showback initially, and it worked to bring awareness to the business units and the teams what was costing, where were they investing, but it lacked the driving accountability part, you know. It was very common for us to go to a team and say, hey, stuff is costing too much, right? And the most we could get as a response was, oh, this is pretty interesting. We would love to do something about it, but we have a year worth of roadmap that is pointing on the direction of new products, more customers, new features and improvements. So what we did is last year we started transitioning to a more chargeback approach. And we also are doing it via budget. So now cloud cost is part of every business unit cost. And we're seeing good results of it. So we really think that the chargeback is going to help us driving the accountability part, which is so important.
That's great. All right, I'm looking at the time, so this might be our last question. We'll see. Zach, what capabilities of FinOps did you feel you struggled the most to implement, and if there is something you could change, what would it be?
Yeah, I think it's probably a little bit culture of accountability. If I flip to think how we would have done it differently, you know, we were trying to go accelerate towards cloud, and you know, if we were doing, I would say, the same capability at the same time, each of these business units, like I said before, are on a different path. I'd love to say, like, hey, we're all going to put our web data or our web capability in the cloud first, and we're going to learn from that. If we had done, I would say, a little bit of standardized patterns, I think that would have been maybe a better way to go. And I say that just from easier to control costs if you're doing the same platform in the same way every single time, but also, again, they're on different journeys trying to put different capabilities in the cloud, just like Bruno said, they've got a backlog of things. So if I could have done it different, that's probably where it would have been more standardized patterns on the way to cloud to be able to control costs up front.
Great, thank you. I want to thank each of you for joining our panel today and really for your continued contributions to the FinOps community. It's really appreciated. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. I want to give you also a shout out, Jen. You have been so influential in the community, and she spends time with us literally every week as our chairperson working through strategy. So thank you for all your efforts.
My pleasure, trust me. Thank you.
Thanks. Nice work. JR here from the FinOps Foundation. Thank you for watching. Please go to FinOps.org if you want to get plugged into this amazing community. And of course, hit subscribe right here on YouTube to get all the future content. Hope to see you soon.